Hello everyone, I'm Jesus Jimenez Olarte. I'm the main author for this abstract that we are going to explain now, and in the title is Neuroethical Psychology in Transhumanism for Ethicom 2021 Congress. First of all, I'd like to thank you to Dr. Pellegrin, Jorge Pellegrin, and every people are trying to do a special congress in this time for pandemic. Let's start it. We are currently at a transition point towards a transhumanism development in which the possibility and moral tendency to improve the physical, intellectual and psychic capacities of the human species through the application of new technologies on eugenics with the aim of eliminating all the undesirable aspects of the human conditions such as illness, suffering, aging or even death. Led us irremediably to the transhuman species by evolution. Such potentialities open the window to a post-human being in which in parallel an evolution in moral and social ethical conflicts should be envisaged. Therefore, technological progress in the search for solution to internal conflicts runs parallel to the transition process in terms of the humanist paradigm shift. Contrary to what many humanist theories refer to, transhumanism is not a school of thought, or at least it's not only a school of thought derived from parts of science that are bound together with ideological depth. It's the naming of a real, present and accumulative consequence of scientific and technological advance that for the moment are diluted in futuristic thinking. Transhumanism has become genetic engineering, nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, cognitive science, robotics, and especially artificial intelligence are advancing unstoppably. Emotional pharmacology modulates our moods in an increasingly selective way. Dopaminergic agonists can improve the acquisition of motor skills and are associated with increased neural plasticity and the development of new drugs for the treatment of depression, anxiety and depression. Moreover, the development of novel drugs is not only based on ameliorating underlying diseases but directly targeting not pathological groups of subjects. For example, new known additive stimulants such as atomoxetina seem to improve general arousal levels in normal subjects. The control group begins to be studied. But this beginning is not valued as such. They are supposed to be just isolated breakthroughs waiting for someone to name this succession of facts as emerging transhumanism, which will officially lead to a paradigm shift in the human being. And until then we will not begin to assess strictly and objectively all the changes that have occurred, are occurring and will continue to occur in both cognition and emotional management. These changes have already begun, both physiological with an emotional impact and emotional with an impact on physiology, as epigenetics is discovering day by day thanks to neuroimaging tests. The emotional neuroscientific community must not abstract from a reality that is silently advancing unstoppably, but most advanced in parallel with scientific achievements that continue to be published in isolation but with a global transhumanism approach. The debates amplified by fiction based on future projections that draw the struggle between machine and human, after the realization of a shelf of the machines, retracting the fate of currently more pragmatic questions in which the human being himself tends to become robotized. diluting this condition of Homo sapiens sapiens, evolving towards being the technological perfect, is the human plus. In this way, human being and machine merge into a future entity in which new ethical conflicts are neuroses, characteristics of this symbiotic evolution will appear and can be reduced in the same way by the pharmacomodulatory potential. Thus, we are faced with the root cause of problems of conscience and thus emotional well-being, which it turns contains the remedy. But to what extent can science have emotion modulating mechanisms without taking away individual freedom, even from suffering? It's one question. Good question. Okay. As we advance in the necessary transhumanist processes, both emotions and existential conflicts will grow under the neurotic principle of the difference between the consciousness of the present self and the necessity of the future self. Transhumanism is not a breakthrough with an end, but a succession of improvements that will lead to a succession of expectations. Thus, the desire to live longer and better does not entail an end of expectations as we progress in it, but it does contain a discouragement and the deshumanization it entails. This discouragement is based on a kind of process that brings about an improvement in the general human condition that is not accessible to every human being on the planet because of the fragmentation theorem. Okay, I will now present this fragmentation theorem for the first time on the occasion of this Ethicom Congress. Let's start it again. We can define ethics and the discipline that studies good and evil in relation to morality and social behavior. In other words, it's the moral customs and laws that socially value humans' behavior in a community. According to this premise, the creation of prior ethical norms is no use for purposeful progress on emotional levels. For this, techno-evolution itself will leave a fragmentation divided into several levels that will need to be recomposed once they appear. Okay? First one is competition necessary for the emergence of new advance. Second one is access of an economy and power elite to this advance with consequent progressive emergence of new social techno-classes. The third one is fragmentation of society. It's normal. Fourth is class struggle. 5. Less limited access to progress as a consequence of social conflicts in proportion to the level of progress and struggle. Okay. 6 is generalized stability of advancement on social stability, and the last one is the new process of competition. Yeah, this the circle complete. The conclusion that can be drawn today is, on one hand, this interhuman competition is necessary for the advancement of transhumanism. This competition contains the seeds of fragmentation. The arrival of stable posthumanism will not be without great social difference, initially silence, causing the progressive appearance of first quality human beings and second quality human beings. The struggle for access to techno-quality by the losers classes will lead to suffering, less inequality and stability for the generations of new competition that will generate new advances. Yeah? It will be the fragmentation theorem. Okay, as we have seen, one of the greatest dangers facing on an ever-advancing biotechnological society is the creation of a two-speed humanity in which only people with access to new resources and the desire to evolve will advance their organism. But the question is, how do we found this new ethic, and where do we start? I thought the picture may seem dystopic at times, we must create an ethical vision from the epigenetic basis of philosophy. On one hand, we must maintain the basic general principles of coexistence as a species, including spirituality, religion if it contains our Christian's mark of God. That allows us to continue not only with our instinct of survivals and reproductions, but with the development of an inner world capable of connecting with the rest of the people we influence and influence while maintaining and why not increasing our empathy for physically unreachable environments. I'm sorry, I'm not water. Okay. Continue. On the other hand, we must look outwards and, with the principles of humanistic science, observe, analyze, and create new moral principles adapted to the society that silently calls out commercially globalized, but culturally and sociologically to atomized world. This wealth of diversity must be maintained in a sense based on respect, but at the same time we must generate new global sociological response to maintain a seeker in harmony with our changed environment and our inner conflicts. As a conclusions, I like to say that today humanist reflection on the concept of freedom, autonomy, human nature, among many others, that underpin the humanists of the 20th century for so long, is more urgent than ever. We need a critic that runs parallel to the scientific and technological developments of transhumanism. It's urgent to return to the same old questions in the new social and scientific context. When does human life begin and end? Who has the power to determine this origin or end? What is the moral status of a human life? What is a dignified life? What is a dignified life? Yeah? The discussion of these questions and others is a task that the humanities must not put off. If the idea of dignity is equated with the idea of autonomy or quality, all instrumental practice on humans beings could be justified. However, the imperfection of human beings and their unsatisfied relationship with reality allows them to have aspirations, to progress, to think, to win or to make mistakes, but above all, it allows them to live and to transcend. In other words, to be human. After this review study, the question remains too complex to provide a single answer because it depends on each point of reference in terms of culture, individual and social freedom and expectation. No one but us can give it the necessary shape from our morality and culture. Now, we will not be able to shape a transhumanism neuroethics congruent with the present and the future without professionals who will break through. Our duty as social analyst is to invest time and events to continue with the ethical reflection on transhumanism postulates within a framework of social coexistence that allows us to maintain a tolerable emotional balance for the continuity of our natural evolution as the cognitive, emotional, and social beings that we are, and that I hope now we will continue being. Thanks everyone again for this congress to listen me, and I hope that you will enjoy the rest of the congress. Bye bye.